Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. We thought we understood human nature until we learned about chimps. Humans were by no means a recent addition to galactic governance, but this was a meaningful day for them. Their calendar year marked the 50th anniversary of joining my species, and 3 others in forming the beginnings of a workable system. My counterpart, Councilman Jefferson, chose to celebrate by inviting me to his private nature preserve. He wanted to show me his relatives, though I wouldn't know what that meant until he actually introduced them to me. I was dropped off in a field surrounded by trees, tall grass, and 2 disconnected half-moon-shaped buildings made of glass. I gave my pilot a wave once I saw the human walking toward me, and he took it as a sign to take off. "Welcome back to Earth, Councilman Gypsum," Jefferson greeted. "And hello to you," I offered my reply. "Come, I've told my friends about you. They're excited to meet you." We entered one of the 2 buildings. Apparently, they were prisons, or that's what my assumption was until he explained that we are actually the ones caged in. He pointed at an open door behind an empty room. "They can come and go as they please. We are the ones protected by glass." "I see. Who can come and go?" This didn't make any sense to me. As far as I knew, humans were the only intelligent species on Earth, and the deadliest. What would pose a risk so great to warrant these measures? We kept walking until we found one of the very large rooms with a large pile of red fuzz laying in the middle. "Ah, here we are, Councilman Gypsum. I would like for you to meet my very good friend, Hobie." The mass of red slowly twisted at the top until it revealed a very flat face. "Good God, what is that?" "Hey, be nice. This is my relative I spoke to you about." He made some signs with his hands in rapid succession and got a lazy wave for the trouble. "Yeah, he doesn't get excited for much, but he is happy to see you." "This is a very strange hobby you have here," I offered carefully. "Well, less of a hobby and more of a passion. These cuties almost went extinct a while back. Now I spend my life with all of the great apes in hopes to never let it come that close again." "All you say? Just how many great apes are there?" "As far as species, lots. But the 5 big ones are humans, chimps, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans. This one here is the latter. There are more than that too. There are 3 species of orangutans alone, and a couple of gorilla species, but those are the big groups. So there are 5 buildings, 1 for each species. Well, I said they are free range here, but that's not really true. There are actually invisible fences that separate this island into various sections. All the more peaceful species, gorillas, orangutans, and bonobos, share 1/2 with fences separating them. They can actually interact with each other while supervised. I would like to dedicate a planet to each, but this is all we can do. And the other half, that goes to the chimps, a more tricky species. In fact, even that one species will split off into tribes and make war within their own families. That sounds almost human. I wasn't going to. I know, I agree. We came up to another room. This one had a short, broad tree in the center. Sleeping beneath it was a being of pure muscle. It made eye contact first, then tilted a tall, cone-shaped head toward me. The thing looked back to the open door, then walked away on all 4s. Geez, am I that ugly? Nah, just wait. Sure enough, he came back, holding the hand of a smaller gorilla. "That's his girl." Jefferson made some quick signs with his hands. The larger of the 2 apes sat with his smaller back feet touching and made some signs back. "So are they intelligent? You communicate so easily with them?" "To be honest, I don't know. There's a story of a gorilla named Coco. She asked for a kitten for Christmas and was offered a litter of them to choose one from. She loved that kitten, but one day the little guy got hit by a car. It was explained to Coco that she would never see him again, and she seemed to make the connection with death. She was very sad after that." "Emotions are not a tool of cognition," I replied. "No, but they are a tool of bonding. As far as intelligence goes, they aren't building ships or anything. They, or at least Coco, had an understanding of death. So maybe they do understand self. Or maybe they don't. But I don't really think that matters. I suppose it doesn't, I answered. We spent some time with the gorilla family. Some came and left through the door outside, but soon came time to visit the bonobos. Now those curious little hairy humans we were allowed to interact with. Jefferson opened a small hatch when he saw Emily. The ape was waiting for him. She crawled out and climbed him like a tree. She wasn't like the other two. She wore her emotions like a colorful jacket. She was excitable and quite cute. She doesn't know sign language just yet, but she's learning. He signed something with all his fingers pinched at the tip and angled it towards his lips. To that she got excited and started hopping up and down on his shoulders. Here, he handed me a small bag. Give her one of these. I did, and she took it. There was a war going on inside her head over whether to take the treat gently or excitedly. Gently won out, but just barely. So next is Chimps, right? I asked. I guess it's that time, isn't it? He suggested as he led Emily back to her room and closed us out. We walked outside, and it occurred to me that the apes had more space on this island than we did. I suddenly felt very large in tight skin, and at the same time very, very small with eyes all around me. Something just felt off and the human just pressed on. He unlocked the door, and we proceeded in. What we saw left my jaw hanging stupidly. The feeling came almost instantly. There were rooms like before, each with a garage door leading out. But inside these rooms lay the unmoving bodies of bonobo-looking creatures, only they were bigger. The chimpanzees were dead. Their hands, feet, faces, and groins were bloodied and gnawed off. I wasn't prepared for this. My stomach contents voided themselves, unprompted by me. I looked to Jefferson with a pleading, hopeful air. Jefferson just stood there, stone-faced and angry. But who could have done this? I asked. Like I said, they were like us. One room wasn't entirely empty of life. A nearly man-sized chimp stood, one arm stretched above his head, planted flat on the glass. He had a bite-mark scar on his cheek and many wounds on his arm. But he was calm, almost as if he didn't care they were there. My human shouted at the creature while signing. Was this you? Did you do this? The creature on the other side lazily lowered his arm and signed back. Enemy. You enemy also. The trees moved and shook. Gradually, more came to back up the solitary chimp. He wasn't alone. In total, 8 more stood beside him. They began jumping and screeching loudly. They were excited. They wanted to do to us what they did to their own species. They wanted my hands, my nose, my toes, and my groin. Thankfully, the glass held strong. The noise was unbearable. I left the building and collapsed on all fours. A gentle hand landed on my back, but it felt like acid. I spun to throw it off me. You are related to those beasts. He paused and swallowed hard, my closest relatives. I backed away, still on the ground, unwilling to look away. Jefferson was one of them. He wanted to bite my hands and my face. I knew that wasn't true. I was in a sad state, though. It was something only time could remedy. You've seen the worst of them. Don't judge them on their worst, and don't judge them on their best. Those would be comforting words had they stolen something small and insignificant, but this was murder. It bordered on genocide. I want to go home, I said plainly. Certainly. This didn't go as I planned, he replied solemnly. None of the apes were safe to be around, but to be put in the open felt just as horrifying. It was my best option. I sat, leaned up against a tree all night. The human was never far away. Some need to watch over me. He wanted to make sure I didn't go far. He wanted to make sure any fingers he could eat were within a quick dash's reach. Something to my left caught my eye. It was much more acute at night. It was him, the hostile ape, just standing on all fours, front limbs long enough to touch the ground like a quadrupedal beast. He stood there like he had been there the whole time and angled his gaze at my nose. I let out a shriek and clenched my eyes. The human rushed over to check on me, but it was gone. My mind playing tricks. Get away, human. Hey, listen. Tell me what you saw. I just pointed, and he contextualized it. It was in the direction of the bad apes. Why don't you just get one of the nicer gorillas to help you? You think I can command them to fight for me? Even if I could get one to help, he'd be outnumbered. It's you and me, buddy. You, me, and the fence. It wasn't just me, him, and the fence, though. It was also the broken glass barrier. And there was Jumbo, the big, ugly, scared chimpanzee that called me an enemy. The human inched closer to the bramble with the light in hand. He wasn't 10 feet away from the woods. Do you see anything? I called out. Jefferson just held up a hand in response. Something touched my head. It was a probe. It said, "What interesting skin you have." I stiffened, then tilted my chin up. It was him. It was Jumbo. The beast bared its impossible teeth at me, then dropped in front of me. I was no expert on apes, but that was no human smile. It stretched at me and pushed me over. The beast descended upon me with heavy hammering fists. I could handle the punches. It was what came next that terrified me. It was my worst fear. I reached out a hand to put a barrier between us, and he bit it clean off. Then he bent over and bit my face. Why wouldn't he just kill me? Why does he need to make me suffer? There was nothing I could do to stop him. His power was everything. I tried hard to accept my fate, but reflexively, my limbs kicked and punched. Even the stump pulled its weight. For a moment, it almost seemed to be enough. The weight was lifted off my chest. I forced my eyes to open in spite of the swelling, and I saw him. The human had removed his shirt and wrapped it around the monster's neck. As strong as Jefferson was, even his strength was that of a child's compared to Jumbo's. The shirt ripped, and they faced each other. Jefferson wasn't done reaching for tools, though. He found a branch and picked it up. It was large and unwieldy. A poor weapon, but intimidating for sure. Jefferson's body turned red in a sort of threat display, and he roared. I didn't even know humans could roar. I've heard earth animals roar. They are usually deep and carry for miles, but Jefferson's wasn't chest rattlingly deep. It broke a few times as he let it out. It was higher pitched like an ape. Jefferson really was one of them. Jumbo looked at him incredulously, as if saying, "You dare show me anger, show me fear, flash your red skin at me." Then he let out a hoot and slinked away. Jefferson was right. We didn't need some gorilla. Jefferson was far scarier. I relented, with no other choice but to go back into the safer of the two buildings so he could dress my wounds. A medical evacuation came in the morning to take me and Jefferson away. When we met again, he was at my bedside. I disallowed awkward silence from rearing its ugly head and spoke first. "I assume you'll have them all put down." He paused, then sat on the plastic chair. "I'll have them relocated. They're just animals being animals. You can't blame them for their nature. They should be extinct. Maybe they will be someday, but that'll be at their own hands, not mine." He called us an enemy. I honestly don't think he knows what that word means. I think he was just saying I was a target too, like the others. If I were an enemy, he would have stayed and fought. Jumbo left because I put up a fight. Animals tend not to keep fighting when there's no point. If they are animals, then so are you, Jefferson. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps we are all animals. There was a sad air about his voice. "Listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you. No, it's just my nature.